What's up guys, Sanchez here. Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Let's go. So if you're into photography and you own a camera, you should know and understand these three camera basics, because these three should be complement each other. It's very important. Aperture controls the brightness of the image that passes through the lens and falls on the image sensor. It is expressed as an F number like f1.8, f5.6, f11, f32. So if you're shooting portraits or objects and you want that background to be blurry so that your subject will stand out more in the image, so you need to put it in the lower f stop. So here's an example photo I took with my friend at the City Plaza at f4. So as you can see in the background there, the trees and that huge giant cake, it looks blurry and not in focus because we are at f4. Here's another example at f11. So you can see now the background there looks more clear and in focus because we are at the higher f-stops that give less exposure because it represents the smaller aperture or smaller light that comes from the sensor. Here's another example I took from the web. You can really see the difference there between the f4 and the f22 setting. So put in mind, the lower the aperture gives you more exposure and a shallow depth of field, while the higher the aperture gives you less exposure and a greater depth of field. Moving on. The slower the shutter speed, the longer the exposure time. Use slower speeds when there isn't a lot of light and a fast speeds when you want to freeze the moment. So here's an example for that. This photo is taken at the lower shutter speed of 1/50. As you can see in his hands and his feet, it looks blurry because we use the lower shutter speed. Here's another example at the faster shutter speed of 320th of a second. It looks more crispy and it's freezing. So basically, if you're shooting moving subjects, people in action, sports, animals, birds, wildlife, or whatever it is that moves, and you want to capture it in real time, you better use the faster shutter speed in your camera. Whew. And the last one is ISO. In other words, it is just an artificial light for your camera. So if you don't have any light and it's dark, you need to bump up that ISO. Boop, you have your light. It increases and decreases the brightness of your picture, but also affect both grain levels and dynamic range. And take note, the higher the light is, noise level increases and the dynamic range typically decreases as well. So you won't get that clean, HD and good looking photo that you want. So you just need to balance it. If you're shooting daylight, put it in 100 to 400, or at night maybe 800 to 1600 or 3200 or above. It also depends on the camera and the lenses as well, but just put it in the native ISO of your camera. That's it for me guys. I hope you like this video and learned something about it, and if you like it, hit that like button below and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you on the next video.